Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over this optic right here that you see in my hands, and you've probably seen on quite a few rifles in the intro. I've had this in for a while now. I'm not sure how long, but many months. And we've had it on 308s, we've had it on 5.56 rifles, multiples of each, and it's got a lot of rounds through at this point, and it's doing extremely well, as you would expect from any ACOG. So for those that don't know, this model here is the LED version, so it is illuminated with battery power and doesn't have the tritium and fiber optic that most traditional ACOGs have. So what we're going to do here is, of course, let the dogs take a look at it, do a little bit more shooting, come back in, get into the details on it. We'll touch on the reticle here real quick, but of course that will vary by model, and then do some comparisons with different ACOGs, whether they be LED versions, tritium fiber optic versions, to kind of let you guys know the pros and cons of each, to let you decide which one you want, if it's this one. And at the end, we will go over what I think of it overall. We'll get into the size and weight and all that stuff here in just a second when we do some comparisons, but I just kind of want to give you a quick overview on the actual optic itself. Number one, the thing I thought was kind of cool when I first saw it is that it has dual mounts for RMRs, so you can either position it towards the rear or towards the front, which is kind of unique. Not a lot of ACOGs have that feature, so that's kind of cool. Our illumination adjustment here is on the side, and it goes from 1 to 6. You'll note there is an intermediate point there, which we have it at right now, which is sort of like 5.5, let's say. So if you are comfortable in your low light environment, say like for home defense or something like that, and you know that whenever you want it on, you can click it just to 5, and that's the setting you want with your weapon light, let's say, then you can just leave it in between. Although, one thing that's really nice about this is that it has really good battery life. So it has a 1200-hour battery life, which is roughly 500 days, so over a year, if you leave it on setting 4. And just leave it. So say you had this optic set up in a defensive role, every birthday you have, or every Christmas, or every New Year, whatever, just swap that battery out and you're good to go. You can just always leave it on. That is a huge selling point for me for a lot of optics, and I do like that it has that feature. So of course the big albatross, the thing that gives it its unique capabilities, is not only this LED adjustment here in terms of illumination, but also the battery that powers it. So we have the AA battery housing here on the side. As you would expect with ACOG, it's very well machined, and it might take me a minute here to get it open, so I'm going to randomly talk while I do that. The body of the ACOG has, of course, 7075 T6 aluminum housing. It's hard coat anodized. They're extremely durable. ACOGs, in terms of durability, are as durable as any optic on the planet for sure, and in that regard, that's one of the biggest selling features of them, is that ACOGs just last and last and last. And one thing that's nice about the LED version versus the tritium is that, unlike the tritium, the LED, if it goes out, you just replace the battery. So you don't have to send it back in every 12 to 15 years like you do with the tritium versions. Now, I don't really think that's a huge deal, but I know it is for some folks, so we'll just mention that there. The battery that comes with it and that they do recommend is the lithium AA batteries, but if you want to run alkaline, you can. That's perfectly fine. They just recommend for better performance to run the lithiums. That makes sense, because anybody who knows about like the CR123 versus AA and stuff like that in terms of how they do in different weather conditions, the lithium ones always do better. So they do recommend that. Now you can see the inside, the threads there, very nice. It's O-ring sealed, and they are lubricated from the factory, the threads are, and it's submersible like any other ACOG. You can drop it down if you wanted to go scuba diving with it. You certainly can do so, just like any other ACOG, so that's kind of cool as well. I'm going to screw that down and get back to you in just a second. Through the magic of editing, the battery cap is tightened, and we have taken off the covers for the elevation and windage adjustments. They are half MOA clicks, so basically you're going to move, each click is going to move about ½ an inch at 100 yards. If I quiet down, you'll probably be able to hear it. They are very tactile, very audible clicks for folks who are really into that. Absolutely, you could expect nothing less there with the ACOGs. You know, also know that they are rubber O-ring sealed again there, and that again is just to keep all the water and moisture out. I do like these little lanyards that they have for the caps because I have been known to lose a cap or two in my day. The actual mount we're using is this Midwest Industries QD mount. It's excellent. If you guys are looking for a good QD mount at a reasonable price, I'd definitely take a look at it. However, the Optic itself does come with the traditional TA51 mount. I've discussed it in many ACOG reviews. It's a good mount. Either way, whether you're using an aftermarket or the factory mount, I recommend removing the screws here on the bottom, putting a little blue or purple Loctite on there to prevent that from loosening up, because that is something that can happen with ACOGs. Once you do that, secure it down, and really with this one, change the battery once a year, and I bet it will be good to go when you hand it off to your grandkids. These things are just really bomb-proof and work exceptionally well. We're going to go over the reticle on this ACOG here, but also keep in mind that they come in all the different ACOG reticles. So if you want one with just the chevron tip, if you want one with the crosshairs but not the circles down below that we're going to touch on here in just a second, that's available. If you want one with the dot and donut, that one's available. There are all different reticles available for this ACOG, which is pretty cool. So you do have some options if you decide to go with this model. But on my particular reticle, this one's designed for the M4 or the M249 shooting military ball ammo. So you're going to zero it at 100 meters, and then at that point, the line below that will give you range estimation properties of a person. So according to DoD and doctrine of the U.S. military, someone is approximately 19 inches wide at their shoulders and at their hips. And at that point, if you put that line across and that's where it lines up, then they're 300 meters away. Same goes for all the subsequent lines. So if you line it up on them and you see it extend shoulder to shoulder at the 400 meter distance, then they're 400 meters away. The same with the line below it, the 5 and the 6. And one thing that's cool about this particular reticle is that since it has the capability and designation to be mounted on the M249, it kind of gives you some greater distance capability as well. So should you want to go down to 7, it has that little circle with the 3 lines, the same with 8, the same with 9, the same with 1,000, all the way out to 1,200 meters. Now, you can see there it's open in between the dashes, and there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, it still allows you to actually see the target that you're aiming at, because with the steady lines, they'd be very thick at that distance and would obscure a lot. And also because the cone of fire, in terms of how accurate you can actually be in reality with that ammo, opens up at that distance as well. So it sort of serves both roles there. It's pretty cool. The thing I like about the reticle here and the way it illuminates is that it only illuminates basically the crosshairs in the middle and then down to the 4. And it actually starts to lose a little bit of illumination on the lower settings down near the 4. So really the crosshairs in the 300 are really bright, and the 4's got a little bit of illumination to it, and after that it's just black. So if you're trying to really focus and not have any illumination down at that distance, you can, and really kind of focus. But of course with the LED, you can just turn it off anyway and have the black if you want to really get precise. And I find myself during the day, that does allow me to be a little bit more precise with the actual illumination off. And what's nice is it gives you the option with this. Now we're going to get into the comparisons, which I know is kind of what everyone wants to hear. Should I get the TA31? Should I get the TA11? Should I get the TA02? Or should I get the TA110, right? This is a lot of money in ACOGs here on the table here, so I have a lot of experience with ACOGs, a lot of rounds down range with them, so I think I have a pretty good basis of that. So basically, for those that don't know, these two here are the battery operated versions of these two here. So these are tritium and fiber optic. The downside of this that some people don't like is that it can either be too bright if you're out in bright sunny days, maybe a little bit too much light comes through these fiber optic rods, or sometimes say you're in a dark room that doesn't have a lot of light around it. Some people say they're not bright enough when shooting like out of a window, let's say into a very bright area. So that's sort of the con of them. The pro of it is that it's always on, so that's certainly good. And especially with the tritium, it lasts, like I said, 12 to 15 years-ish of illumination in low light, and then during the day, of course, the fiber optics will work forever. So get that out of the way just to show you guys that those are two of their main competitors and sort of where they came from. And then I want to get into these two specifically because I know you guys are going to ask about it. So basically, in terms of length, the TA111 or 110 rather is 8 inches long, and the O2 is 6 inches long. The big thing for most people is going to be the eye relief. If you ever hear a complaint about the TA02, TA01, or TA31, it's almost always the eye relief. It's very short at 1.5 inches with the 110 model here. It's going to increase that a good bit. It's the book answer says 2.4 inches, but I can tell you in reality, you can definitely have your eye further than that away and still get a good sight picture. I would estimate probably out to 2.7, 2.8 without having any sort of shadowing. So that's really helpful if you're not shooting prone. If you're shooting maybe from a barricade, say doing, I don't know, like a rollover prone or some sort of non-standard firing position, it does help a lot of people with that extra eye relief. So that's just something to really point out. Now the eye relief comes at a cost, and that cost is field of view. So here with the 110, your field of view is going to be 29 feet at 100 yards. So when you're looking through the optic on the edges of the reticle that you can see, it's 29 feet versus here with the TA02, you're going to get 37 feet. So it opens it up a little bit, but again, that comes at the cost of shrinking the optic down in terms of size and weight, as well as with that eye relief. So in terms of weight, we should point out that the optic here without the mount is going to be 16.8 ounces on the TA110, that's with the battery. And here with the TA02, it's 12 ounces. So you're adding a little bit of weight. And even if you're considering, say, the TA110 versus the TA11, which one you should get, this one here, the 110, is going to add 2 ounces over the TA11. That's, again, just due to the battery and the battery compartment housing on there. So that's really how they compare in terms of specs. There's not really a right or wrong answer. It's really a preference, how you're going to use it, what you're going to use it for, and what you're most comfortable with. So that's kind of how they stack up, and I'll leave the rest to you. Since I have quite a few ACOG reviews up already, I was kind of glossing over a couple features of this that I really do want to hammer home that people need to understand. If you're new to ACOGs, if you've never watched one of my ACOG reviews, you've never actually handled an ACOG, what makes this thing so special, right? Well, two things. Number one, the actual durability of these optics. I mean, ACOGs have been fielded by the U.S. military, I believe, for 30 years now. They've made 1 million ACOGs as of the filming of this video, so they're out there in wide circulation. And in terms of durability, I don't know of any optic that has a better reputation for durability than ACOGs. There's some that are close, but I don't know of any that are better. So in terms of just being able to go through hell and back, if you will, ACOGs are as good as they come. The second reason that makes it really awesome is just the clarity of the glass. They're excellent. ACOG uses HD glass, and it's fantastic. It's super clear. Probably a year ago now, I did a review of the LCAN, and holding this optic next to the LCAN, this one's definitely clearer. And LCANs are very expensive optics, as you guys know, and they're very good optics. I'm not putting down the LCAN at all, but compared just side by side, I was kind of looking through each eye, and this one was a little bit clearer. So that says something. I mean, it really is a very nice glass. Now, they're not cheap at all. ACOGs, particularly this model, I was looking around before this video, and basically you're going to see them from $1,100 to $1,300. So it's absolutely not cheap. Nope, not cheap at all. I could buy 2 Aimpoint T2s for that. You could. I agree. If that's what you want, that's cool. ACOGs aren't for everybody. They're kind of like, I would say, Lexuses of optics for some folks, for defensive optics especially, because like I said, sure, you could buy a couple Aimpoints for the price of the ACOG, but the ACOG just really is super nice. Everything on it is very refined. There's no sharp edges. The clicks are nice on the adjustments. Your LED adjustments are very sharp, very precise. The way it mounts is very nice. The glass is excellent, like I said. But if you like the Aimpoint T2, I do too. It's a great optic, or like a Trijicon MRO, if you like that, that's great too. They're just a different choice out there. But in terms of magnified fixed prism scopes, ACOGs, they're as good as they come. So what would I get if I was wanting this or a TA11? Tough one, right? So basically, if I was focused solely on home defense, I would probably go with this for the ability to use it in low light and adjust it to where you want it. If I was buying it for sort of all-around use, I'd probably still take a good look at the TA11, because it's going to give you, of course, a little bit lighter weight, like we said, and then it's going to give you the fiber optic enhancements rather that you have out when you're out shooting in the field or something like that. A nice bright reticle on some backgrounds certainly is nice. So. But you could ask me tomorrow and I could tell you a different thing. Both are good. There's pros and cons to each, as you guys probably have learned throughout this video if you didn't already know, but it's definitely a good option out there on the market. I think this is one of the newer ACOG models out there, and from what I understand, it's been very popular. So that's about it. If you guys have any questions about the ACOG, anything else that we discuss here in the video, you can always post down below in the comment section. You can also post it over at my Facebook page. As always, that's generally the best way to get in touch with me, because I don't always see my comments here on YouTube anymore for whatever reason. And I get a lot more At least from my perception, I see a lot more of them over on Facebook. So if you guys want to get in touch with me, that's the best way, but you can always post down below in the comments as well. I see a lot of them, just not all of them. So again, if you guys are new and not subscribers, but you like what you saw here in the video, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. For those of you guys that are subscribers, thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who's watching, and I hope to see all of you in the next video.
The hell is that? There we go.
Hit.
Yep, the last two were. Hit. Didn't see that one.
Hit.
You can really see it better than you can hear it. This thing. Yes. Hit. Hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, missed.
Hit.
Was it a hit?
That was a hit.
Yeah.
Looks like it was a little bit.
That was a solid hit. Yes.
Yep.
Hit.
Just
That was
low.
that hit.
Just low. Hit.
Hit.
Pretty sick, actually. Mid. Hit.
Killing it, dude.
Got it figured out. Hold the top right corner.
I'll tell you, I've never, like I said, that's the most accurate, bullet drop compensate I've ever shot. It's pretty fucking fast.
Yeah, I mean, it's right on.